What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for May 17th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a feel-good Friday edition of the podcast. Last day of vacation before we head home tomorrow morning. So I got to get it in early so I can be in bed early to get up and leave early. And honestly, it's one thing about me. When it's time, last day, I'm ready to just, none of this putzing around. It's like, let's go, let's get up, get on the road, and try to get home as soon as possible. But that leads to a quick housekeeping note. Tomorrow will be probably an abbreviated podcast. I'm going to record later this afternoon, so there won't be any updates on the latest news or anything, just so I can get it all set up and ready to go before, because usually we get on the road tomorrow morning probably by about 6, so I'm not getting up at 3 a.m. to record, so I'll record it. It'll be this day in Philly sports history, but probably not too much on the state of Philly sports, but that's okay. We'll get you all updated then on Sunday. Be sure to hit me up on social media, Jimbo_Mont, Twitter, and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. Spread the word. Tell your friends. Let's grow this thing. All right, let's start with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, is Allen Iverson the most clutch Sixer in the playoffs of all time? 60% of you said yes, and not many people had anyone to really replace him as the guy. I can't say Barkley, can't really say Dr. J. You can't really say Wilt, and I mean, you could possibly say Moses, but again, Moses kind of came in and dominated. So it wasn't like he had to make clutch shots. He just came in and they rolled that year. But when you have an organization that is pretty much known for their choking in the playoffs, it's hard to come up with who's clutch. So we're going to go with AI as the most clutch Sixer of all time, unless you can come up and tell me somebody who is more clutch. But we have a team history that is rooted in choking in the playoffs. So the fact that AI did so much and put the team on his back in the 0-1 run has to be AI to me as the most clutch Sixer ever. You could go Moses, but I don't think he really did anything clutch. I think that he just made them that much better of a team. And I won't put Dr. J there because his team blew a couple 3-1 leads, or he blew at least one 3-1 lead, almost blew another, blew a 2-0 lead, and really just couldn't get the job done without Moses. So I cannot put him there. But if you can come up with somebody who's more clutch than AI, send them my way. All right, tough one for the Phils. Very sloppy, 6-5 loss in 11 innings, or I guess it was 10 innings. Tawan Walker was just not sharp to start. They're still kind of iffy. It seems like there's a lot of non-fundamental playing in the field, but they still fight, and they did not give up and went down to their last swing. And it's just I like that from them. I like the fact that there's still a lot of fight. I like the fact that they're not out of it, kind of like I said, that 07 to 2011 vibe. The issue is they just some guys are just not there, like just silly mistakes, fundamentals, and it's a long season. So I want to make sure that clear, and you're not going to win them all, and it's hard to be mad at this team for losing the final game of a 4-game home-and-home set against the Mets. So, I mean, if you put everything into the big picture, then, you know, like games like this are going to happen. They just did not play well. They didn't have it. They could have hit better. They could have fielded better. They could have pitched better. But still, we're there in it to the end. And that's really what you want from a team that's supposed to be good and make a long, deep postseason run, that they're never really out of it, and they will continue to fight. They're not going 162-0. So, I mean, you know, 3 out of 4. I'll take 3 out of 4 the rest of the season if that's what they're going to do. They have the Nationals actually haven't been playing that bad, but the Nationals are in town this weekend before the Rangers come in the following week. So looking forward to that tonight. Just a reminder, we'll not have the update on that until Sunday, but we will get it done. Now, I saw an article in the Inquirer this morning talking about Phillies trade deadline needs and what would suit this team and what they should go after. So that's what I'm going to ask you. That is today's question of the day. What do the Phillies need at the trade deadline? Do they need a relief pitcher? Do they need an outfielder? Something else? Let me know what you think. 267-495-8531. Get you in on the Back to the Future voice and text line. What should the Phillies trade deadline move be? Like, who should they target? Do they need an outfielder, infielder, power hitter? Oh, man, there's the sum. Power hitter, relief pitcher, another starter, backup catcher. Like, what do they need? You let me know. 267-495-8531. Get you in on the Back to the Future voice and text line. I've been telling you, I'm sure it's not too late, but time is running out. Philly Goat has you covered for the Phillies-Mets London series, and these shirts are incredible. Go to phillygoat.com, check out whether it's the Founding Fathers, I'd Scuff, Mrs. Met, the whole nine. Go check it out, phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. I've been telling you for a while now, and if you haven't, do yourself a favor. Just go check out their whole entire collection. Ryan over there does a great job. You're not going to be disappointed. I'm wearing my Philly Connect shirt today. The material is amazing. It's just a good quality shirt. It's not like the cheap, like, doesn't go through the wash and fade or anything like some of these t-shirts you get. So go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery. 10% off your order. You will not be disappointed. All right, some final notes here on the Eagles schedule. Kind of had a chance to really dive in, and I did see some of these through various posts on Twitter and social media, but just kind of looking. And this is like the deeper dive. They don't play anybody coming off a bye week, which is good. They had during that gauntlet, not only were the way the schedule was set up last year were the tough teams, but they were like half of them were coming off their bye week to play the Eagles. So that is a definitely good positive. The Browns will be coming. They'll be their third straight road game, which is always tough for a team. And the Eagles are actually coming off of their bye that week, and I was concerned. I mean, I like the later bye. But I think this year I like having the bye in week 5 so that way they can adjust and make any necessary changes that they've seen from the first couple weeks or first few weeks. However, they do have sort of that mini bye because they play Thursday Night Football later in the season, week 11. So that gives them like a 10-day mini bye. They have the game against the Packers then too, where they'll have, I think it's an 11-day because they play the Monday night then. So they'll be able to see what they have, almost like and again, it's regular season and it's a conference game, but you can kind of use that first game in Green Bay as an extended preseason because you have then the 11 days to sort of prep and make the necessary adjustments. And then you have the same thing in week 11. So even though they have an early bye week, the way the schedule kind of quirked out that way, that works out for them. I still think, though, looking at the schedule, I mean, it depends on who you ask. There are some people who are saying 9-10 wins, some saying 13-14. I still think, even with all of these other things, I think to me that kind of solidifies probably closer to 11 or 12. But I still think this is a 10-11 win team. I think the NFC is going to be way more competitive this year. So I think 11, 12 wins might be enough to get you into the bye conversation. But we'll see. It's a long season, but that's where I am. And I asked you yesterday, people were giving me their thoughts, and you guys are all over the place as well. So if you didn't, get your Eagles wins predictions into me as well. 267-495-8531. Get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. And don't forget to let me know what you think the Phillies' biggest need is at the trade deadline. All right, Sixers news. This was pretty cool. Tyrese Maxey won the Sportsmanship Award, and his parents presented it to him. You can look at the video up if you haven't seen it on Twitter, but it was pretty cool, like a decent moment. It's kind of one of those things where you play the game the right way, good things happen. So hopefully now that translates into him taking everything to the next level. But a pretty cool moment for Tyrese with his parents. So go check that out. Hopefully at some point in his career, he will be the Sixers' most clutch player. But until then, it's AI, unless you can tell me someone else. Don't forget to check out my boys over at the Clashing Conferences podcast. It's brutal and tough as it's been with the Knicks. They're doing some good stuff over there. So go check them out wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, the Clashing Conferences podcast. And as always, let's go Pacers. All right, today it's going to be a fun one. We're going to go back to 1979. And on May 17th, 1979, the Phillies and the Cubs played a 1:30 game at Wrigley Field. Remember, this is before the time of lights at Wrigley. Phillies opened up the scoring with 7 runs in the top of the first, and then the Cubs came right back with 6 in the bottom of the first. In the top of the third, Phillies scored 8. Cubs came right back with 7 in the bottom of the fifth. As you would expect, this game went into extra innings, and in the top of the 10th inning, Mike Schmidt hit a home run to give the Phillies a 23-22 win. You heard that correct. 23-22 at Wrigley Field. Schmidt on the day went 2 for 4, 4 RBIs and 2 home runs. Also was walked intentionally twice. Newly acquired Pete Rose, 3 for 4, 4 RBI and 2 double. Gary Maddox went 4 for 4 with a homer and 2 doubles himself. Bob Boone, Randy Lurch, a pitcher, also had homers for the Phillies. For the Cubs, Dave Kingman hit 3 in a game where pitching was obviously optional. Some of the records that this game set, the Major League record for extra bases combined for both teams at 47. Most total bases in an extra innings game, 97. The most RBI in an extra inning game by both teams with 45. And it tied the record for home runs in an extra inning game with 11. Just, again, pitching was optional. That game, the Phillies weren't in first place at that time, but the Pirates, the We Are Family, Willie Stargell Pirates, got hot. The Phillies ended up finishing 84-78 that year, 14 games back. It was the first time in 3 years they did not win the division, but we all know what happened next year. You give Pete Rose 1 year of playing with the Phillies, got accustomed to it, and we know what happened in 1980. But on this day in 1979, it was the Phillies beating the Cubs 23-22 in 10 innings out at Wrigley. Mike Schmidt hit 2 home runs. Dave Kingman had 3 for the Cubs. Just an offensive explosion, as you used to have. Usually, though, those days back out at Wrigley Field, it was like one team would take advantage and the other pitcher was good. In this game, none of the pitchers were good. It was just all offense all the time. And of course, it went into extra innings. But that happened on this day, May 17th in 1979. All right, finally today, it's a family affair. Keith Primeau, center for the Flyers. He spent 6 years in Philly, 87 goals, 126 assists. Probably most known for his game winner in that 5 overtime thriller against the Penguins in the playoffs in 2000. He was brought in that year to help Eric Lindros and kind of be the second center. But then you had all the issues with Bobby Clark and Eric Lindros' concussions and all that. And then the way that season ended so poorly, with blowing the 3-1 lead, and then Eric Lindros getting, I think, like his 3rd or 4th concussion of that season, forced him to retire. So Keith Primeau ended up being the guy, and I believe ultimately, I should have confirmed this and looked it up, but I believe Keith Primeau ultimately had to retire due to concussions as well. I'll double check on that and get that information for you tomorrow. But overall, it was a good pickup for the Flyers. Just never got them to where they needed to be. But he had a brother, Wayne, who was also a center, who had a 15-year NHL career, had 69 goals, 125 assists, and was a solid, just regular, not a star, not an all-star, just a solid NHL player. And this is the first time since we've been doing this series, and it's 17 days in, that we have an instance where we have the right brother. So Keith Primeau, one time in Philly sports history when the Philly team had the correct brother. But today's Family Affair Spotlight is Keith Primeau. Played 6 years here. Lots of fun memories, lots of good times with Keith Primeau. But probably most remembered for here in Philly, at least by the casual hockey fan, for scoring that overtime goal in the game winner in the 5th overtime. But he is our Family Affair Spotlight for today. On this day, wind's blowing my papers all around. On this day in 1979, Phillies beat the Cubs 23-22. Mike Schmidt hit a game-winning homer in the 10th to give the Phillies the victory. Be sure to hit up the Back to the Future voice and text line. Let me know your Eagles win prediction. Let me know who is a bigger clutch player than Allen Iverson. Nobody can come up with a good answer. But the real question of the day is, what is the Phillies' biggest need at the trade deadline? It's still a little ways away, but as you're about a quarter of way into the season, what are you seeing that this team needs to help get them over the top? Just a reminder, tomorrow will be an abbreviated podcast just due to traveling and everything like that. We'll get everything else updated and be back to a normal routine starting Sunday. Go enjoy your Friday. I'm not sure what the weather is supposed to be like, but hopefully the sun, I'm going to try to bring some of that sun that was just out back home with me. But go have yourselves a Friday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.